riggedy wrecked, riggedy riggedy wrecked. I've been day fasting all week, man.
Why?
Just because I got a bug up my ass and decided to do it.
Fair enough.
Maybe I'm just getting ready for if we start not having grocery stores in the near future, and
Oh
get used
no.
to being hungry, right? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
be smart?
Oh no.
Never done it before.
Yeah, you never know. Well, as long as you're eating something every day, don't
Yeah, well,
starve yourself.
one meal a day.
Okay. At night or in the morning?
Yep, at night.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm. I didn't talk to a doctor about it or anything, but I figure our
Perfect.
ancestors often didn't eat for a long time, so
Oh
I
yeah.
should be
Oh
fine.
yeah. No, you'll be fine
Probably
if you
good
eat
for
every
me.
day. Yeah, if you eat every day, you'll be fine. If you don't eat for a full day and then the next day you don't eat, that's when it starts to really wear on you, but you'll be fine. Every day, like one at least once a day is good. I mean, you might be hungry, but at least you're getting nutrients. That's the whole point. Yeah. Your brain will start to your brain needs sugar and carbs. If you start to get like a little bit retarded and tired, then eat some more carbs.
Okay.
But you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Well, and then there's also lots of new data on various fasts. So like there's a lot of benefiting to fasts, and then there's also various fasts that isn't like, because there's like water fast where it's like all you drink is water, and then there's other fasts where you just have very low calories. So there are different types of fasts you can do. But the key thing is that you're just reducing your metabolic rate so that you're activating different things in your body to come up. So I believe it was after 36 hours is when you start to reconstitute your microbiome, and your body will just start to kick in. I believe it's after what is it, like 4 days or something, that you start to actually start to produce stem cells and pump them throughout your body. Uh,
Is
anyway,
that
there's a
actually
whole bunch.
true? I
Yes,
looked
it's
into that. We've talked about that. I've looked into it. Is that actually true? Because I
yeah,
was
yeah.
I
I
was
got
seeing mixed evidence.
Well, I mean, you're always going to find people who say no when somebody says something. There's always going
Yeah.
to say someone, I disagree, you know? And
No,
it's
that's
like,
not fucking true. You kidding
yeah,
me?
yes, it
That's
is.
obviously ridiculous.
How Libra of you.
No, how he's correct and how funny. Yeah, I know. There are people who will always disagree, but because I looked into that, Troy, because I was actually curious about that, the whole like, and I don't know if I could do a 5-day fast though, or a 4-day fast. That sounds, as I eat a bagel with cream cheese, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, I've totally done 3 days, just
Mm.
water.
After
Hmm.
doing it all this week, I think I could do a couple days if I wanted to, but I'm not quite
Nice.
wanting to do that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a while to build that up, because a lot of it's willpower, but then also it's just like your body has to get used to switching to those other systems. So intermittent fasting is a great place to start, like one meal a day, but then also like just like, skipping a day here and there, but it depends on what you're trying to do with your body. But these are kind of ways that, because the thing is like if you think about it more evolutionarily speaking, is that okay, you're at a time where you basically haven't eaten for several days. Well, then you're going to start to activate all these different mechanisms in your body to make you more functional and more aware to actually go out and get these and
Yeah,
find stuff. So it's
your
like,
body wants you to get moving so that you can keep moving,
Yeah.
mhm.
so to speak.
Dude.
And so
Yeah, if
like
I
cold
oh,
exposure, warm exposure, they've shown that these turn certain genes on and off. So there's lots of stimuli in our environment that directly affects what genes are turned on. And that's really what epigenetics is which ones are on and which ones are off. And so exposing yourself to different environments and different stimuli actually help your body, better adapt to your reality. And that's the whole reason why like diet and exercise are super important, because they're some of the biggest inputs of how our body is constantly, adapting to the world around us.
It's probably why Joe Rogan is always yammering on about jumping in the cold bath or whatever, the ice bath.
Yeah, an
Mhm.
That's
LP.
probably why he's doing it. There's probably some scientific basis behind it besides just being like wanting to be a beast and shock his system and be cool. Be the cool
Yeah.
Joe Rogan Leo that he is.
He is, yeah.
Joe Rogan, I'm a cool Leo. So cool. I want to
So
talk to you about aliens. Always
That sounds
talking
like a
people about
South Park
aliens.
show.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
I think that's his new theme song.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
The intro to his new one is gonna just come in and it's gonna have his little spinning logo and it's gonna have and have you singing along.
Again,
Oh yeah.
welcome
Perfect.
to the Astro Bros episode
Welcome.
number 6.
Is it?
Yes.
Pretty
Yes, it is.
sure, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Welcome to Astro Bros. Nick, Troy, Mike. There we go. Done. Intro done. Yeah.
So what's going on with those stars, my guys?
Ooh.
You know, tell me what I should know.
Yeah, well, it's Leo season right now. Mercury's gonna retrograde soon. That's always fun.
What does Leo season mean?
The sun is in Leo in tropical astrology. So Leo is the center of the summer, right? So it's like the middle of Leo is the middle of summer season. So the fixed signs are basically the fullness of the season. So Leo is the fullness of summer. So it's full bloom. It's people going hard. It's since it was based in the northern hemisphere, it's people getting out and enjoying the summer. Like there's a lot of pleasure aspects of summer because back in the day it was before the harvest. They'd done the work planting during the spring. They had like a lot of time pretty much to chill and maybe weed, and then the harvest comes right after it, right? So it's like in our more archaic cultures, like our ancestral cultures, this used to be the time that a lot of people would come together for big festivals and things like that, which gives people a chance to show off, to be themselves. That's really what Leo season is about, is letting your creative juices flow, getting as much out there as you can, like putting yourself out there and enjoying life.
Yeah.
Some people just choose to use it to argue on the internet, though. So it is, however, people can do it however they want. That's fine. You can celebrate Leo season however you want.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's not arguing online. I'm shining my light into the darkness.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's also about the big ego, the culmination of the ego, in my opinion. I know,
Yep.
So, which is good and bad.
I just want people to know that I'm right, just
Yeah.
once in a while.
Yeah, see, that's an Aries fire thing, right? So like people, fire signs are always right, even when they're wrong. Leo is always right, but Leo is more always right than even Aries. It's like it's like
Always
the king to the Aries general, the king is always right. The general is always right in certain situations, when they're at war, but the general still usually bows to the king.
Oh yeah,
if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and in the positive, Leo can be about the heart, having a big heart, being a good leader. Like you can have a really shitty leader who is just all about themselves and just commands people to do what they want, but also you can have a leader who cares about their people. That's Leo rules the heart, or like this, and that can be a positive thing. Like, I mean, it's about, love, but also just feeling gregarious towards people and feeling kind of like, I care about people. I want to, you express yourself in a way where like people want to then reflect that back to you. Like celebrities are ruled by Leo, in my opinion. There's things like that where it's like, what is a celebrity? It's someone who's popular because they're famous, like for whatever reason, than just because people love them and they adore them and they think that they're amazing. It's like, for better or for worse, but yeah. So Leo it's not a terrible sign, but like Leo also is the sign that thinks that the whole month is their birthday. That's like the kind of
Yes.
imply like their archetype. It's like they think all of August is their birthday, like even though their birthday is one day. And you know, it's not a bad thing to do. It's not a bad quality in human beings to like have to like go like I'm awesome, pay attention to me, hear me out. Like this is my own unique creative, like this is me, self-expression, all these things. But like it can be taken too far where it's, it can be egotistical and kind of like too much, I guess. And so yeah, which every sign can be taken too far. So it's yeah, that's normal. But
Yep.
yeah, it's Leo is dramatic. I mean, that's the whole idea. But dramatic is again just to emphasize the idea of taking ideas too far, taking things too far. It's like you dramatize things, you're melodramatic about stuff. But there's not necessarily a bad thing about that because you can it overemphasizes things so that they can be looked at. So it's not a bad thing.
Here's my main issue with Leo. So you just said some positive. I'm going to tell you the negative. The main negative that I see with Leo. So because Leo is ruled by the sun, they have one of the toughest times seeing their own shadow. So even if you like literally show them through like maybe, I don't know, like screenshots or whatever, it could be anything. But say that you show them through screenshots just how much of a terrible person they're being when they're being unconscious. Say you show them that, they still won't see it. They can't, like, they literally can't see their shadow elements, which is probably why they don't get along with Scorpio very well, I'm guessing. But so what you really want is a Leo that's got at least a little bit of a handle on their shadow, but it's pretty rare. Most Leos,
Oh yeah,
everybody else is the problem. It's never them. It's always passing the buck, I've yet to meet very many Leos in my life that were willing to like admit without hedging a ton when they did a bad action, especially when they're caught in doing a bad action. They hate like anything that reflects poorly. They hate anything that reflects poorly on their public persona, on their public image. And it's just it's
yeah.
everybody else can see it. Everybody else can see their shadow. That's like the issue.
Mhm.
Everybody else can see what they're doing that's shitty, but they seem to have a little bit of trouble admitting it, which is, it's a big game.
Part of it's
like a little bit.
Well, and part of it's like you were saying is like if there's it's their point of light source and their perception of it. There's various things with just how light works. Like if you're standing between two parallel lines, there's going to have a vanishing point, in the middle. There's certain things of just how light works and how we perceive things. And part of that is if something's in your way, you can't see on the other side of it, and also if the light is coming right at you, it's going to change things versus if it's coming right behind you, and those are, because a lot of your shadow is essentially, just having that extra perspective point, a reflection point to see a different perspective of yourself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For real.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and just to add on to the Leo, it's like, in the positive again, I'm going to focus on the positive. Like,
Nice.
It's creative self-expression. So like, it's like just being yourself. Like, I mean, the opposite sign Aquarius, their job is to create a world where Leo, the archetype can be themselves. It's like, the more open we are to self-expression, the more that the Leo in people can express. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's a good thing. Like, the more creative expression we have, great. Like, it means more opportunity, more interesting ideas come out, more creativity, like more artistic, whatever. But yeah, the downside of that is like Leo can overly, I mean, they're basically hyper focused on that. So they only see themselves, their own needs. And so like, for example, like I have, someone in my family who is a Leo and she dominates the conversation. She always turns the conversation back onto herself, no matter what's said. And that's just, and it's nothing like I'm not criticizing her because that's just
that's
natural
a normal Leo thing, actually.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Totally
and but it just emphasizes the idea of like, yeah, that's just how they are. They don't, maybe like whereas Aquarius can be so focused on like the other and like people who are like, oh, like I want to, give people the opportunity to be themselves. Leo just only is a focus on being themselves, and that can be a downside and a positive. So yeah, there's like, everyone I'm sure knows a Leo in their life, and they can be a little bit obnoxious because they're always talking about themselves. They always make everything about themselves. Like a Leo is the type of person who, when you say a joke quietly, that's the sign that will then say your joke louder, basically, and so that the whole room laughs. And then you're like, "What the fuck? That was my joke." But they're like, "No, I took
Stole
it and
my
I made it."
joke.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's okay. It's just the nature of that sign, and that's just, we can't change how Leos are. But just to be very clear about the archetype, it's like they can be obnoxious in that way where they they're very much just about like presenting things. They really want to present a persona of like, you know they have their shit together, they're very awesome. This is like, it's just presenting like in the same way that we talk about celebrities, is like celebrities, their personas in the public opinion are like, this person is this way. We don't know anything about their personal lives, but we know that they presented themselves to the public in this way. Leos are really big on their public image as well, and making sure that people give them praise in return. Because, and in the positives, yeah, if you're a creative person, if you're actually doing things for the, adding to the zeitgeist, like actually giving, creativity, art, whatever you're doing, like, music, you're even being a good actor, that's a positive thing. Like you're adding to the zeitgeist, and then people, yeah, can praise you. But like a lot of people who have Leo placements, they just think that without actually doing the work to actually like present, to give to the zeitgeist and to give to the culture. And that can be a problem because there's this almost like unearned superiority about them. There's this unearned, like, you have to like just praise them when they haven't earned that praise, I guess. So yeah, that's just something to watch out for. But
For real.
Troy, ego, talk about it.
Well, I mean, there's like the colloquial definition, which is just like, I mean, there's so many different definitions of it. So it just kind of depends on what you're talking about. The more like, I mean, a lot of people just say it's like hubris or negative aspects of yourself, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. And I think it's essentially in a lot of our culture has been a way to scapegoat our behavior and essentially just throw most of our aspects of our ego into our shadow, you
Yeah.
know? And
That's
so,
true.
and
That's true.
and there's nothing inherently wrong with an ego. That's just like, it's just like saying, oh, it's bad to have a body. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's a fundamental aspect of who you are. And if you don't have one, you can't be human in the way that we define human.
Well, okay, astrology addresses that because astrology basically develops the ego through each of the signs. So like the ego is born in Aries, it's it's developed through each of the signs, and by the time it hits, so if you think about the path of like the ego, it's born in Aries, goes through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. By the time it hits Leo, it's about the culmination of the ego in terms of this full self-expression. And then the next sign, Virgo, it's about transforming the ego into service, because you can't just be about the self, you have to also serve others. And then by the time it hits Libra, it's about the other person. And then by the time it hits Scorpio, if you haven't transformed your ego into learning about the other, then you have an ego death. And so, but with Leo specifically, it's about full expression of the ego in the most positive sense. Like I think, ego gets a bad rap, but you're right. Like there's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are, expressing who you are, having your own unique ideas, being able to, whether, I mean, take any field, like someone who is strongly proud of who they are, there's nothing wrong with that, like on an innate value. So like, yeah, the ego is not a bad thing. It's just when it gets taken to the nth degree and it's just taken to the extreme, that can be a problem. But like, so yeah, like I was saying, it culminates in Leo, and then it starts to transform when it hits like Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. And the transformation is basically turning over the ego into the collective kind of thing, where it's like, your own personal self has to then also recognize that there are other people. And then my dog just walked in here. Hi, Nola. But yeah, exactly. And I thought I closed my door.
Well,
But yeah, so yeah,
well,
it's not a
I
bad
hear
thing.
you. Well, the thing is that like we have to accept our ego for what it is, and the key thing is that like David R. Hawkins talks about this a lot: power versus force, letting go, the pathway of surrender.
Yeah.
But so pride is an issue in the sense that you're going to place disproportional emotional attachment to outcomes rather than who you actually are. So you're setting your sense of identity off of things you've accomplished or things you can accomplish or will accomplish. And so you're saying, okay, it's one of those things that ultimately, if I don't have that title, that girlfriend, that whatever it is, without that, I don't know who I am. And so it's essentially that like that you that so then it creates this point where it's so when you're proud of something, that's all on a basement of fear or on a foundation of fear because you're so proud that you have it and you're praising it so much because you don't know who you are without it to a certain degree. And there's that fear of loss every time you're giving someone a compliment from that vantage point
Oh yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
where it's very different when you cross and where pride is right below fear or excuse me sorry below courage, and courage is the breakthrough point. So on the scale it's like pride is like 190, you know, and then 200 is where you start to break to brave into bravery or love, and that's when you still have fear present but it's love is now the dominating force. And uh that really comes down to, psychologically speaking, is when you're saying, you know what, it's it's being like, hey, you know what, and this is the it's like, okay, I'm proud that I accomplished all these things, but you know what, I don't need those accomplishments to actually know who I am, because I know that I have the wherewithal, the effort to put in to be able to accomplish things I want in this reality, you know? And I don't need the outcome to know who I am, to know what I can put into reality. And then once you have that, that's where your brain shifts and that's where you're actually being able to open up to truth, you know? And that's really where you start to break out of your shadow in that same way.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that love to shine the light, essentially, and you don't accept yourself, because that's part of what love is too, you have to accept yourself for where you are before you can hope to get to where you want to be, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found
No.
that ego is a very good servant, a very terrible master. Like, to put it another way, it's a great vehicle. You can like use your ego to, I mean, your ego is basically like a suit that you can kind of put on to go do the things you want to do. It connects with your persona a little bit. I feel like it is, or at least you can utilize your ego through your persona. Um, and as long as it's not running the show, which is basically just power drive kind of stuff, or um, recognition drive kind of stuff. If like your whole goal is to get power and recognition for yourself, like think about how that would work with like a king, just to keep with the Leo metaphor that we're using. A king that's absolutely focused on themselves, can't see what's happening in the kingdom, isn't paying attention to, you know, what's going on. They end up being a despot or a dictator, and they're a bad fucking king because they couldn't recognize what was happening in their kingdom. They couldn't like do the right things at the right time because they were too self-focused on their own power and their own attainment. Um, Whereas if you think about the other side, the good king recognizes his role, probably is strict, you know, to a certain extent, because you almost have to be a good king. Um, but also they recognize the things that their people need in order to be happy, in order to be productive, and they work to make sure that that's happening. So it's like the best aspects of Leo are how they help give the energy to the people around them. They can radiate like love and light pretty much to the people around them at their best. And at their worst, it's like it's just kind of this, it's almost like being in the sun too long. It just wears out all the people around them, you know? Like it's always about themselves. It's like when somebody's just talking about themselves over and over and over and over and over again, like, and you're in a conversation with them, you eventually don't want to fucking talk to them anymore because literally you can't get a word in edgewise. And each time
It's
you
a
try
one
to
player.
bring some
It's a one
topic
player
up,
game.
it's about how it affects them.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they keep talking like
100%.
that. Sorry to overtalk you. It's a one player game, and it's basically like you may not even. It's like your controller's not even plugged in. They're not even listening to anything you're saying. It's like you hit the buttons and nothing happens. I've been in conversations like that. Unless you're like a 2-year-old and you don't know that
Yeah.
you're not actually controlling what's going on. As soon as like people stop interacting with you, you you stop interacting with them. That's just basic play mechanics and how we're
Oh yeah.
you know
Well, it's funny you
Totally
use that word
understand.
play because play is also a Leo word, and that's exactly right. Like, you know, Leo is the king, and like, yeah, you could be so focused on yourself and just only about yourself, and then yeah, your people, the people you rule over, grow tired of that, and they revolt against you. And like, another side of Leo is, and this is more fifth house, but also Leo. It's children, it's play, it's like joy. When we talk about like find your joy, that's a Leo word. And like what is it like? And that's not a bad thing. Like your ego is attached to joy, but like joy is not a bad thing. Feeling a sense of like enjoyment in life and play, and like not taking everything so goddamn seriously, which is the opposite sign Aquarius would do. And and just
Self crit. He rolled a 20.
uh you're right, you aren't wrong. So there's a value in that, because like in a way, like I'm an Aquarius, as the joke implies, and I take things way too fucking seriously sometimes, and like there's a value in just fucking like going through life with a sense of like, what, I'm fucking awesome, like I'm just gonna find the humor and the amusement in things, the joy in things, and I'm fucking awesome, like that same mentality. It's like there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with telling yourself that you're fucking awesome, because we talk about like everyone is shits on themselves all the time, and like we come from generations like with like Pluto and Scorpio, Pluto and Libra. It's past the Pluto like in Leo generation, but there's a value in just valuing yourself basically, and like it doesn't you don't have to have any planets in Leo to at least incorporate some of that into your chart, where it's like, or into yourself, where it's like, I'm good. I do these things for myself. I do these things for the world. I'm fucking great. Like, there's nothing wrong with telling yourself that, and that's the positive value of Leo. It's like, just shrug it off. I'm good. I'm awesome. I don't give a shit what everyone thinks. Like, I'm fucking
That's
awesome.
like the entire boomer ethos, right?
Yeah,
Like it's like the Pluto and Leo generation. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
no
exactly.
matter how shitty a boomer is, they think they are the best fucking thing that has ever
Yes.
come onto this earth. And you should listen to everything that they have to say because they
Oh
figured
yeah.
it out, man. They
Oh
got it.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's
And
plenty of great boomers. And when my mom watches this as a boomer, and my dad watches this as my birth
hi,
dad watches
Mike's
this as
mom
a
and dad.
boomer.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
want you to know that I love you guys, but your generation might have a little bit of an overestimation of what you've accomplished so far, because have you noticed
Hmm.
that everything's falling apart? I
Hmm.
had one more thing that I had to talk about that directly links to the Aquarius Leo opposition.
Yeah, please.
Last time Pluto was in Aquarius was actually during the French Revolution. So if you think about it, it was the people beheading the monarchy, right? It
Hmm.
was basically the people versus like the celebrity, like the people at the time that were the equivalents of the celebrity getting fucking tired of them and their despotism, and deciding that they were all gonna, lose their heads. In fact, France just commemorated this in their Olympics ceremony recently with
Oh
a
yeah.
Gojira song, which was actually kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think everything was cool in the Olympics opening ceremony, but that part was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't mind some medals, at the Olympics, but
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like
I'm sure there wasn't
that's
any
the other
wood
thing.
there.
It's like you can only be as creative as your community. You can only get so far out of bounds with your ego before people come to chop your head off a little bit,
Oh yeah. Oh
take you
yeah.
down to size. And Leos do get humbled. They might never admit it, but they get humbled pretty often when they get out of bounds. And
Yeah.
there might be a lesson in that. I don't know.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
their humility might be somewhere in their shadow, so they don't know it exists. So maybe
Oh.
that's why they don't exist. But they
Yeah.
admit that.
Well, yeah. They don't acknowledge it. Yeah.
Well, they get
But
humbled and they're like, "Oh, that's an uncomfortable feeling," and then they forget about
Suck, man.
it.
well said. Well fucking said.
I don't
No,
want
no.
that to happen.
Yeah. And I just want to add this is
this is
again.
unpleasant, so it must not be true.
Yeah. That's exactly. Hey, you nailed it. Um, you fucking nailed it. That's if we're talking about the 12 archetypes, like there's a value to have that type of self-assurance and self-confidence. Like, because the rest of the fucking 12 archetypes like have their own issues and all that stuff, but there's a value in having such a strong self-assurance and such a strong like ego basically. And I just want to add something like with the Aquarius Leo axis, like in the ideal form, Aquarius creates the world where Leo can be self-expression, they can have their self-expression. Again, that's very idealistic, but we're just because we have Pluto and Aquarius coming up, it's this idea like, well, we need to create a world where every individual can express who they are, whatever that means. Again, it's very vague and idealistic, but it's been obviously focused on things like gender identity and all those things. But if you take a step back and look at it, like there's a value to having a world where everyone can just be their creative self and be their, express who they are individually. Again, like Aquarius and Leo words, there is a value to that. So like, we're moving to that axis, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, and like the energy will shift out of the cardinal sign, like, and we're there already, but it's one more last dip into a Capricorn. But like there is a value to have a world where, okay, like you are into this thing, great, do your thing. You're into that thing, great, do your thing. This is you being yourself, great, do your thing. Like it's very idealistic. Maybe it won't happen exactly that way because there's a lot of other factors, but
Well,
in the
Tauruses
idea,
still exist. So I don't know if anybody will just be allowed to do whatever they
how
want.
dare you? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What still exists?
Tauruses.
Tauruses,
Oh,
they
okay.
still exist, yeah.
Ooh.
Wait,
They're the
wait,
moralists. I mean, like, just look at them.
car,
Like
the car,
the
or the
fixed signs,
people.
man.
I know.
What?
I'm just kidding.
I mean, yeah, never mind.
Oh, say your piece, my guy. My guy.
Be bold.
Be bold. Channel your Leo moon. You have a Leo moon. Come on, let's go.
I I just said a joke. I mean, you're now like putting a microscope in on my joke. It's just like,
No, we just didn't hear it. We just didn't hear it.
it's all right. It's all right.
Troy gets the bomb, Dana, because he bombed with this joke. Let's go. No, I'm
I
just
made
kidding.
a meme about Aries going up on stage today. It was a meme about Leo watching their Aries friend get up on stage to do a comedy set. And it was like that picture from Game of Thrones where he's like, just give me something for the cringe, like the king is dying, and it's just give me something for the cringe and let me die, and I thought that was pretty funny, but
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
you should check it out. It's a great meme.
Shout out ASO React, or no, just ASO
ASO
Facebook channel.
Reacts. Yep.
Oh, it was on Reacts. Okay, I wasn't sure where you put it, so I was trying to plug you. Yeah. But yeah, fuck yeah, go Mike. Yeah. So Leo, it's a good sign. I mean, like all the signs, and we can talk about the good and the bad. It definitely, all the fixed signs definitely have their own issue, are more intense in their own ways. There's an intensity of energy there, obviously, because it's just in their nature. It's the fixed signs. It concentrates energy and really expresses it. But that's also why the fixed signs are associated with the I forget the biblical thing, but it's like the
Or angels, basically, like the
yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. And they're so, good and bad. And it'll be fun to talk about Scorpio season when it comes up. But like, yeah, there's a value to the Leo energy. And as much as it's annoying sometimes, there is a value to any individual having that energy in themselves because, it can express many ways, but there's a necessity to having self-expression basically. And everyone needs to be able to express themselves on their own unique individual level, yada, yada, yada. But like, without Leo in the world, Leo, the archetype, I mean, the world would be a fucking miserable place again.
More
Like there's
drab.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So there's a value to it.
Absolutely.
And Troy, you have your Leo moon. So, you do have Leo in your chart pretty strongly. And your inclination to enjoy karaoke and singing and so you really are into self-expression. And it's not just your Aries, it's also your Leo stuff too. And there's a value to that, and that's awesome. So it's not just like, oh, self-expression is bad and being over into yourself is bad. It's like, just taking too far, that's when it can be a problem.
I
So,
love self-expression. I mean, personally, in
oh
my
yeah.
chart, I have Jupiter in Leo in the fifth. So I have some Leo just hanging out
Ooh.
in my chart. It's actually been activated this week and it's been super fun. Um, Obviously, there's always problems that come along with it, but tons of creative growth, tons of
Yes.
connections that are bearing fruit right now. It's like it's a great time. Leo season is a great time to put yourself out there and try to make new connections, and don't
Yeah.
be afraid to show off like what you're doing and what you're into, and connect
Yeah.
around your creative interests. It's a great time.
Oh no, I actually didn't know you had that in your chart. Like that's there's leadership involved in that too as well. So that's interesting. The godman of a certain group. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's 11 by my Saturn and Virgo, but it's fun. That's why I make stinky face a lot, like because people are always making poopies like all over my groups, and I have to fucking clean up the poopies, and I'm just, it's fine. It's like part of the job. It's like janitorial staff, but
Oh
I
fuck.
mean, I don't know what to say about it anymore, but
We won't.
Jesus.
But yeah. Yeah.
One thing I'm getting from you guys from essentially like is the different sign energies are gonna have their base level impulses that come with them. Overgeneralizing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
No, you're right.
essentially when you're talking about the negative aspects, those are all the fear-based responses. When you're talking about the positive aspects, those are all the love-based responses. So if you're going on stage for performance just to be liked by other people because you don't feel secure about yourself, well, that's a fear-based response. If you're going up there just because you love what you're doing and you love giving to people and you like seeing people happy and all this stuff, well, that's going to be from a love perspective, and then you're going to have,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's also if you're talking generically spiritual, we were created in the image of the creator. So what do? We need
Great.
to be create. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all creators. And so
Mhm.
it's just like,
Well
and
said.
the thing that I most disagree about Jordan Peterson more than anything he's ever said, he's like, he said, people are fundamentally not creative people. And I was just like, fuck you. No, it's like you go into anybody's house, it's all going to be different. Where do they put their silverware? What kind of stuff do they put on the walls? What kind of stuff, what kind of clothes do they have? Everything that is a decision that is creating their lives. And just because like that's you're using that same part of your brain. You're given a scenario, you're given a very loose guideline, and we have to create what we want out of it. And we do that with everything we do. And it's like
Oh
you
yeah.
don't have to be Rachmaninoff or Mozart or Lady Gaga, and just to say that you're an artist,
Oh yeah.
and or say that you're creative. And that's the thing that like and having that type of an elitist mentality is exactly why so many people in our society now have this thing for a long time where it's like, oh, you could just create stuff to create stuff. You don't have to be, it could just be a hobby, and it's like, yeah, it's always been permitted that way. It's just, my rebuttal to that is, if it's going to be a hobby, let it be a hobby and treat it as a hobby. if you're going to try to make money at it, you know, you have to actually treat it like a business and actually play the game. If you want to do it your own way, that's fine. But don't act like, but don't pretend like you're going to make money if you just want to do it your own way, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, you
but
nailed it, dude. That's
No, I'm
you
going to
nailed
make
it.
money and I'm going to do it my own way. So, yep, just saying.
Yeah.
You
No,
can,
no.
you don't have to necessarily, I think a lot of people like lose themselves when they're trying to basically play to their audience. They lose their sense of themselves. And because they're more concerned about the audience rather than their creative process, they're actually like stifling their flow to a certain extent. And they're limiting the creative power that they could actually have. Whether
100%.
something goes viral or whatever, you know, that you create, it doesn't really fucking matter that much. The creation is that joy of creation is what it's about. It's not about necessarily if everyone else loves it. It's about, oh my gosh, this came out of my soul and came into the world, and I did that. I made that happen. And that is a moment of joy. The moment of creation is a moment of joy.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
it's a moment, it might be a moment of like deep sadness, because it might be like you might be processing like deep emotions, like you could be processing trauma or whatever through creation. A lot of people use art as a method to do that, to process emotions. But every time that you go through that creative process, there's something good that's coming out of it. If you're focused on, the more you're focused just on money, the more your shit is going to look like everything else that is focused just on money. And that'll work for a little while. And then people are going to get tired of that, basically that pattern or that repetition of what works. You know, you could watch a million videos on YouTube. Here's how to make your videos fucking catch on and be viral, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it's always like
I've
fucking
never
bullshit
watched
that
any
makes
of
it
those
like,
videos.
what?
I've never watched any of those videos.
I also very obviously have never watched any of those
Never.
videos, but I know they exist. And I've
We're all
seen
so
them as
full
I've
of shit.
scrolled by them.
We all have. Oh, I love
Well,
it.
but here's the quick thing. Like, I think Alex Hormozy said it, but some famous business person.
Okay.
It's essentially, if you're in business to make money, you're not gonna fucking make money. If you're in
Ooh.
business to help people, then you're gonna make money because you're actually focused on creating value where there wasn't any before, and creating unique value is how you get uniquely amount of money. So it's just like you have to understand people and then take that value to people. So it's like you can create lots of stuff, and that creative process is great, but you want to make sure that that creative process and the value creation process and the value delivery process are both functioning, you know, both in business but also in your relationships and such like that. Because you could be like, oh well, I've got my shit together and I'm all great like this, but if you never fucking talk to anybody or communicate it to anybody else, it doesn't mean anything. You know, it's like we're social creatures and we're all meant to learn from each other, because, you know, like we learn through ourselves through our relationships and our reflections in others.
True.
Amen. Yeah. No,
Someone-
you nailed. No, you understand the Leo archetype very well. What a concept. See, Troy?
Well, I
You're
got some
learning.
influence. What can I say?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You're an
yeah.
influencer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Again, another.
for all of our like 12 subscribers. Thank you. You dozens. You
I
dozens.
think there's
29,
22 now, man. I think there's like
29. 29.
Like, that's great.
Yeah. Thank
all
you,
right.
everyone. Yeah.
All right.
And
I'm sorry to
my
insult
birth
the
dad
other
just
dozen
found
of
it,
you
so he might
watching.
share it with all the Mormons. So be aware.
Oh no. I'll take any Mormon followers. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong
We-
with that.
we
Maybe
love
you
your
shouldn't have
lack-
said "fuck yeah, let's go"
Wait,
right after it,
wait.
but that's
Oh.
that's fine.
So you want Mormon follow? You want Mormon follow?
More
Excuse me.
more man.
We want more men. We want more
but
men.
also some women followers too,
I mean, they might be interested in our product.
But
We'll see.
I don't think women like to follow, so we'll have to find some men who like to follow.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yes, this is well known, Troy. You haven't figured this out yet?
Yeah. They want to pretend like they're in charge, but then they want you to be in charge. That's the rule. Like they
Yeah,
want to pretend like
that's
they're
how
in
it works.
charge. Yeah. And they want, give them all the fucking glory. They're in charge. They run the shit. Their opinion is everything. But in the reality, the background, they want you to tell them what's up. God, we're going in. This is sexist. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
These
But
are the
not really.
traditional roles.
Yeah,
This
there it
may
is.
not apply in 2024 for everybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's
You keep shooting yourself in the head, dude.
I know,
sure.
because I keep putting my foot in my mouth, but that's too hard to do. So I just do the gun instead.
I was making a dry joke, but it's the same thing like when you're dancing and like partner dancing, not like
Yeah.
undulating dancing or thrusting.
Wait, do that again. Do that again. Do that
Yeah.
again.
Undulating.
Beautiful.
But like when you're doing partner dancing, like ballroom, salsa, tango, like what it's you're doing one-on-one dancing that involves you interacting with a partner.
Nailed
you
it.
know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so the thing is
I
that
know where
like,
you're going.
traditionally man is the lead and woman
Yep.
is the follow. And so like, and when you actually understand, like when you're leading, you're not sitting here just throwing the woman around or using her like a fucking marionette doll.
Oh wait,
know?
you're not? Oh shit, I messed that up.
No, that's in the bedroom.
God damn. Oh.
So when you're out on the dance floor, it's like, so I'm gonna initiate, and then they respond, and then you respond, and then you respond, then you start the next phrase over again.
Yep.
And so it's like every single beat and movement is a constant tension and interaction between the lead and the follow. And it's like if I'm gonna go, oh, I'm gonna pull back this way, so that then she's gonna respond, and then it's just constant. Every single beat and is constant interaction. And so when you're talking about it, yeah, it's a creative process. But it's like saying, it's like if you're playing chess and you're like, well, the white piece is always white pieces lead and the black pieces follow. Well, yeah, they just that's the turn. That's how the game's made. That one person always has to go first. If you're interacting, because otherwise you're just doing the same thing at the same time, and then it's not an interaction. It's like it has to be choreographed, or you're just guessing. So
you're so misogynistic. I'm just kidding. No, you're 100% right. And
no,
the
I'm
idea
not
of
gonna massage you, Nick.
okay, damn
Oh,
it. Damn it.
yes, you will. Come on.
You said you're so gonna massage Nick, and I'm like, no, I'm not.
Massage a Nick. Massage this Nick. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. And like the idea of dancing is a great example because one person, whoever it is, has to take the lead. The other person follows. And there's this cultural idea of like being the follower in that sense is a negative. But no, it's like one person takes the lead, the other follows, and it works out for the best. So there's not a bad thing in that. And like based on individuals' personalities, what they value, all that stuff, one person can value being the leader and one person can value being the follower. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think right now in our culture, it's like, especially in kind of the feminism sphere, which I know I'm gonna probably edit this part out because I shouldn't talk about it, but like there's this idea in feminism where it's like, oh, well, we have to be strong like men. But it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with being like, it's two parts of a whole. Like a man being the leader goes nowhere without the other person, following in that way. And then the dance then becomes this kind of symbiosis in this whole. And like, so that's a really good example because, yeah, there's a lot of people in our culture who it's like, oh, it's wrong to be the follower, or it's wrong to be the submissive, or whatever words you want to use. But like, no, it's taking two people who work together and then they can create this larger whole, which is that beautiful dance, as the example Troy uses. And like, yeah, that's not a bad thing at all.
Well, and the problem with that like aspect you're talking about in feminism is just all it is just avoidant attachment. style, essentially
Yes.
it comes down from the thing is essentially blaming other people for the problem more often than not, but it's also
Yeah.
that so we're made to essentially like interact with people or interface with people on like a neurological level. Like when we interact and we're close with people, like we're literally open and vulnerable to them. And so women for a long time have had a lot of issues in our culture because of a whole bunch of reasons I could go into, but they were not treated as fairly and they did not have the option. Like they were more forced into marriage because they didn't have full rights, and that's something that like that we're still reeling from, because that was only like in the 70s or some stupid shit when that actually fully became. So we're even talking
64.
yeah, so we're talking all of our well, 64 and 77, I believe, because there was
Oh,
updated thing on it or whatever. But
okay.
still, it's just like, so
Fair
it's
enough.
like there's a lot with the feminist thing, that is like legit, that like it's not even been that long. So when you're
How
talking
dare
about
you?
that with all on top of all the other psychological factors that have been going into our attachment style disorders, and then people just, well, and that's a lot of what the black pill is and the red pill and all these other stuff is they're basic psychological traits. And then people say, hey, you know what, I figured out the whole world, but it's like, no, it's based upon you not looking in your shadow. It's you not being able to accept yourself for who you are. And part of
Mhm.
the other part of this avoidant thing is that they don't trust themselves because they're too open to people, or empathic in that sense, where it's like, oh, I just can't stop. Well, it's like, no, you just haven't learned the boundaries for that. We're all fundamentally we are all fundamentally wired to be able to sense other people's emotions, not other people's thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's like, uh so yeah, I'm just getting a little
No, no.
tethered at the moment.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
get it. And I just want to jump in. Like the idea of being empathetically wired into other people's emotions, it's a huge value. And I think it's something that our culture is lacking. And but then you can also take it to the other extreme where you're too wired into other people's emotions. And this is gonna be sound sexist, whatever, but like I feel like obviously women are more up able to do that. I mean, on a base level. I mean, if we're talking about like just being able to like tune into your, the infant crying and like being more compassionate to the infant who's crying and empathetic to the infant who is crying. But like, if you don't have that, you're gonna spread that into culture, and you're gonna spread that into like this idea of like, oh, I need to save culture, I need to nurture culture, I need to baby culture basically, and baby others who are not around who are like that. And I just there's a value like, you know, it's a really important thing that women, and not just women, all people do that, because you're right, it is all people. I want to make that very, very, very clear. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's in a weird way, we're at this weird split where with the online culture and like the whole like, the internet culture and everything that has come with that, people are being less empathetic because they're able to just detach from people. But at the same time, then other people are overcompensating for that lack of empathy, that lack of base empathy between all people, and going into this like we need to overemphasize and kind of over nurture and be over empathetic to these certain individuals as well. So it's just weird, like things are kind of
It's
like
kind
splitting
of
in that.
it's kind of the suffocating mother archetype that gets kind of played
Yes.
out in culture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have that playing out in culture, it leads to a lot of negative repercussions, because
Yeah.
consequence and kind of the more Saturnian aspects of life, like if you do something shitty, there's going to be a negative consequence, is actually an important part for learning. You want everybody to like be able to get their needs met, but you also don't want people being rewarded for continual bad decisions. Otherwise, they'll keep making those continual bad decisions, which is basically like kind of the difference between left and right politically, I think, generally, is left is more nurturing mother, and then right is more like stern father, basically, um, as a concept. So you've got kind of
Yeah.
a more
Oh
daddy
yeah.
centered and a more mommy centered
Yeah.
field.
No,
But
you're
there's
right.
another thing
Yeah.
before you guys jump in, because I've given you plenty of time to talk about this.
No, I agree. No, I was agreeing with you. It's a good generalization.
Yeah.
I was watching this feminist video the other night. It was Camille Paglia, who is a pretty famous old school feminist, wrote this book called Sexual Personae. And she was talking about kind of the archaic differences between men and women in the hunter-gathering era. Like the women were like kind of all around each other because they had to be around the kids, right? Because you had to raise the kids. And they were like constantly fucking talking, right? Like this is gonna probably sound worse than anything Nick has said, but they were constantly fucking talking to each other, right? Whereas the men were out hunting, so we're like silent for like long, long fucking hours because we don't want the prey to run away that we're trying to get, right? So we got to be quiet all the time. And then we come home with the big kill if we get it, like get our adulation and then get to eat. And it's great, but that still plays out in male female relationships all the time, where like a dude is coming home from work, he's ready to just plop on the couch and like not think about anything, not talk about anything for a while. And generally the first thing that happens when he comes home, because she hasn't had the circle around her all day, is the partner wants to talk to you about stuff. And I mean, and the women's circle conversations are like this never ending conversation, right? And that's like the general archaic expression of feminine conversation. It's like the constant, continual circle of talking, right? And men don't do that. I mean, that's like, well, men can, we can learn how to do it, but it's not our general nature. Our general nature is to basically remain silent. And that's like been called like stoic, like, or whatever. There's all these words that have been put on it, but it's just part of our archaic nature, and
Well,
there's nothing wrong with that, but it's still part of us on a base. Like this is our inherited DNA. This is our inherited culture. And that was what we were for most of our time here on this earth, was hunter gatherers.
Yes.
So it has the biggest influence on like who we are,
but
how
it's
we
also,
communicate.
but it's also, yeah, exactly. But it goes directly into our communication styles and also with our, like, so that's like still today where women are doing much more human centric nurturing jobs on average, and men are doing much more of the dangerous and uh uh like focus based jobs, I guess, you
Yeah.
know. Uh and so part of that comes into is that like they say, oh, women are more people focused and men are more things focused, you know. And that comes back into the same thing where it's just like we're used to going out and on a high dopamine cycle and being like must achieve thing, you know,
Yep.
whether it be finding thing or killing thing or whatever it is, we're on a mission, you know. And so part of that is communication has to be very timely. It has to be very like and it has to be very efficient.
Good point.
You have to
Yes.
we
Yes.
have to coordinate to finish this stuff. Things have to happen at a certain time because otherwise the thing we're trying to accomplish isn't going to accomplish or we're going to die, you
Yeah.
know. And so
Feelings get set aside. Yeah.
yeah, well, but it's also just because, well, we could talk about our feelings later, but someone's about to fucking die, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And so, but women, in the most part, in that overgeneralized village sense,
How
if
dare you?
unless the village is getting attacked, there's basically always a time to figure it out or just to take an extra minute to go talk about something, you know? Because it's like, okay, I can get back to this in a minute. Okay, or we can talk why we're doing it, you know? And so it just creates a different way to approaching problems,
Yeah.
you know, as well. Because as soon as men, on overgeneralizing, feel the tension of a problem, we want to go solve it.
Yes.
You know,
No,
Yes.
that's true. It's
This
100% true.
absolutely connects to something that always happens with men and women, and this is like a
Yes.
trope because it always happens. But a lady will be telling you about this terrible problem that she's having, maybe with one of her friends, or somebody at work, right? Like they'll be telling you about somebody at work, and all the things that they did and blah, blah, blah. And you just hear all these, this long monologue about this bad thing that's happening at work. And then a dude is going to try to jump in and he's going to be like, oh, well, you could probably resolve that by doing this because that's how men generally think. It's like linear thinking, it's like, oh, they're being a bitch to you. Okay, well, how about you do this, and then maybe they will stop. But
Yes.
what you'll find is that there was no need for a solution. They didn't want a solution in that particular moment. They just wanted to be able to talk about their feelings about the person at work. So a dude thinks, oh, that's a problem to solve. The woman thinks that's a problem to solve. She doesn't want to solve it. I don't understand what the fuck's wrong with her. And the woman thinks he won't even listen to me vent my feelings. Like he doesn't even care. He just wants to like interrupt me and tell me how to solve it. And it is like literally always happening. It will always happen for the continuation of the human species. That will be a trope that's real because it happens all the time. And it's just the nature, and I feel like a lot of modern society has forgotten to a certain extent like our archaic selves. It's saying it's kind of cool because it's aspirational. It's like we can get beyond all this, we are better than this. We can be all these things, we can be whatever we want, and yeah, that's cool to think about, but it's not necessarily going to work, at least now. Maybe in 10,000 years when we're more used to being fucking humans in cities, like in nuclear families, maybe. But that archaic part is still with us, still living through us. And we're kind of pretending that it doesn't exist anymore and that we can just change things overnight and everybody's going to get along with the program. And if you don't get along with the program, then you're a bad person and should probably be kicked off Twitter. That's like pretty much where we are. And
Yeah.
it's not really seeing reality very well. It's not mapping reality well.
Nope.
And that is why we're coming up to just the crashes and the intersections that are happening right now. And we'll see if we make some good decisions so that we can keep an openness of society, an openness to new and novel things, because that's great. Getting back to Leo, the opening for creativity, we want that Aquarian world where people are allowed to express themselves. But also, you can't make everybody be this new way without force. And I think that that's like the underlying desire for a lot of people that are in this is to use force to make everybody conform to this new way of thinking, and that it's not going to fucking work. It might work for a minute, but it's certainly not going to work worldwide, and it's just going to cause a lot of problems. So,
that comes and yeah,
Well
good
said.
rant.
and what you were saying
said.
right there is so much of that's just gaslighting, because gaslighting comes down to a couple different things, but like fundamentally they feel for whatever reason entitled to assert their worldview onto the other person. And a lot of the time I find that from my experience they think it's benevolent. Oh, they just don't know better. Oh, they just, I just need to educate them on the ways of the world so that they and the problem is that like I've had so many teachers like that growing up. So many of the activists are like that on, of all types, Christian proselytizers, they're Christian activists,
Yeah.
and they do, and it's the same psychological traps that people fall into. And, just like we've been saying here, is that like one of my definitions for the ego is also essentially all of our bodily functions too, because it's like saying our incarnated self. It's like, oh, I went through an ego death, and the only way the ego death works is actually metaphorically. There's no such thing as a real ego death until you actually fucking die. So a metaphorical metaphorical ego death is essentially when you kind of release the fear of death, you kind of fear that fear that the part of your psyche that was the fear of that thing dies, and it experiences what it was scared of because it was projecting that experience. So that part of your psyche feels like it died because it created this really weird death experience that it projected into your consciousness, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's much more of an emotional journey of letting go of the fear, and the only way that you can let feelings go is by acknowledging them and accepting them.
Yeah.
For sure. I would say an ego death also is about getting rid of the false ego, like, or the parts of you that you were identified with that weren't actually yourself.
Yep.
And those can come from a million different directions, right? You can be identified with something because you were subject to propaganda on TV for 10 years or something that told you that that's how you should be and that's how you were. You can,
Or your whole life, and the earth could really be flat.
I mean,
Wait, it's not?
I
It's
don't
not?
know. I don't think
No,
so.
my chest is flat.
But
Oh, good.
I heard that the Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe, so that's cool.
Ooh.
Dumbest old joke that I know.
No,
about the
I
Flat Earth.
know, but it's a good joke because they have said that, so it's fucking.
Yes, they have said that all around the globe. I mean,
Yeah.
so
And they
do they even
They just
believe
goes
it?
over their heads. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but
It's a flat globe. It's a flat globe, though.
well, I mean, and stars are just air holes poked in for us. That's all that it is. Like,
Air
yeah,
holes.
yeah,
We're
obviously,
we are the
obviously,
cat in Schrodinger's box.
Nice.
yeah.
Don't eat the
Don't
poison
open the
fish.
box.
Don't
What's
Yeah.
in the box?
Well, yeah. Or we are God trying to know itself through experience.
Possible.
That I actually believe, but I'm not trying to get into it
Oh,
spiritual, but yeah.
for sure.
But
You're not trying to get into anything spiritual? Why are we here?
yeah, okay. No. I truly believe that human beings are God trying to, I mean, God, whatever you believe,
Oh,
trying to know itself, basically. Because if God is all perfection and all these abstract fucking things, human beings are not that. We're very messy. We're fucking going through experience, and like there is a value in like God is trying to know itself through
Yes.
every individual human experience. And so there's, whatever you believe as far as that kind of thing, like I think there's something to that where there's a value to that. So, it's like we all, each of our, and again, it also goes back to like, purpose and like what is the purpose of human life? It's like if fundamentally our purpose is just to experience life and to try to grow, and even if you become 2% better as a human being in your life, that's 2% better, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like, obviously it's not like a 0 to 100 fucking path, because obviously not many people are gonna grow that much, but even if you get 2% better over the course of your life, you're going to be a better person than you were, in your previous self. And like,
Yeah.
there's value to that. So yeah.
Well, and oversimplifying it, it's just like that's the karmic journey, and like we're ultimately here for the karmic experiences.
Yeah.
Oversimplifying it again, it's to expand our consciousness, which again is just be more loving and have less fear. And when you do that, you attain more higher states of consciousness.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
essentially, what it's all about.
Now,
Love. It is actually all about love. It ends
Amen.
up that love
Amen.
is the uniting force of the entire
Yeah.
universe. It's crazy.
yeah, it's going back to
Crazy.
Leo. Yeah.
Crazy.
Tying it back to Leo rules that, and in the most idealistic sense, of course, because obviously
Yes.
everyone knows a Leo sun or Mercury or rising or whatever who doesn't express that, but that's ultimately their goal, is to move towards that. So it doesn't hurt to teach and to emphasize, hey, here's what you need to grow towards. Here's the positives of your sign, because you can at least strive for those, and that's your potential. So it doesn't hurt to like go like, okay, like Leo's like, stop making it about all about yourself. Make what is about yourself, what does that give to other people? And if you're giving to other people, great, that's you fucking nailed it. But if it's just about self congratulation and self fucking fame and whatever else and just reputation, all that shit, sure, like that's the negatives of Leo. But like, yeah, you can, take all of that and then use it to do some good in the world. Like if you're very popular, you have influence over people, do some good with that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's the higher, I mean, we talk about evolved signs and the evolution of a sign, or like the higher expression of a sign, or whatever you want to call it. But like there are better ways to express the sign, and you're gonna feel better from doing that. Like it doesn't matter if you're a Leo or not. Like look at the signs in your chart, look at what the positives are of that sign, and then try to enact those things. You're gonna do more in the world and do better for the world because you're enacting the positives of those signs. So yeah, like I mean, it's very preachy. It sounds preachy, but it's like just fucking do it. It's not that hard. So yeah.
And
Preach
every
to me.
individual goes through like peaks and valleys where they're in the lower. Like when you say somebody's like evolved or unevolved, I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like a little
Yeah.
bit of it's a little bit bullshit. And I
You
think
No, no,
that I
betcha.
understand why the groups say it's bullshit, because
yeah.
I feel like everybody goes through phases where sometimes
Yes.
they're operating at the higher level, sometimes they're operating at the lower level. It's probably connected with transits, it's probably Pluto and Saturn play a
Yes.
role in that, where it's just harder to be positive, in certain times in your life. I mean,
Oh yeah.
if you just have a death in your family, it's hard to, and it's somebody that you really cared about, it's hard to be positive during that time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um,
Absolutely.
and there's lots
Yes.
of things that are like that where we go through time. So it's important not to write people off necessarily when they are exhibiting more of the shadow aspects of themselves, because we got to remember that they're an incarnational soul. They're on a journey. People can always turn it around and become better than what they were the day before.
Absolutely.
Um,
Well, and
Amen.
also
and
like
that's grace.
they're
I think that that's important. It's like grace is a big part of actual love, is having grace for other people.
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's also
Well said. Well
recognizing
said.
that like the stuff they're going through is also the stuff we're going through too. And by judging them, we're judging ourselves. If we're, because it's that classic thing that they've said in New Age for as long as I've been a fucking hippie, is basically it's like what you hate in other people is what you really hate in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a classic thing that it's like, overgeneralization, but it's a pretty good rule of thumb,
It 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 is an overgeneralization, but it is a general rule. I mean,
We literally need to call this episode Overgeneralization, because we've said it so many times. That's got to be
have
the
we?
name of the episode.
I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
And if you want to have an overgeneralization counter in the top, and every time we say it, let's see where we get to, kind of cool.
I like it. I
I'm
like
not
it.
saying that to be a dick at all. I'm just saying that it's come up a lot. It should be the name.
No,
of the
no,
I haven't
no,
I
no.
haven't even noticed.
Perfect.
So
No, no, I love it. That's exactly how we pick the episode names. So fucking perfect. Um, I will work on a counter. No, like I think, yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but basically,
well,
yeah, just yeah, go ahead,
here,
Troy.
here's the whole thing is that like the ego death that you're trying to achieve is essentially letting go of your need for survival. Because so much of our psyche of how we develop our fear-based systems is if I need to do this in order to survive. If I don't have this, I'm not going to be able to have this, so I'm not going to be able to have this, and therefore I'm not going to have my needs met. And that also combines with the thing that you don't have people in your life that you trust to work with you to get your needs met.
Yeah.
And so and that's part of the reason why like us being loved by other people teaches us how to love ourselves and being able to release that fear, because oh wait, it's like I don't need to worry about my needs getting met because I got all my homeboys and my family and all this kinds of stuff that we can go chase down a mammoth if we're hungry.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a different, so and it's how you introduce, or I mean, how you contribute back to society too. Like we were saying, is are you performing a stage? Are you trying to get people's reaction because you need that in order to survive? Or are you doing that because you already have your base level survival needs met and you're not worried about that and you're just trying to contribute into society? You know?
Well, and also, how much are you just trying to feed your own sense of self? I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, but like, if we're still talking about Leo, like, how much is it? How much is it just feeding sense of self in that situation? That in any situation, like whether it's survival instincts and just talking about like, we need people to value us and to recognize us because we need to like, we're part of the
I hear
team
you.
that's going to go hunt the mastodon versus how much of it is taken to the other extreme where it's like, I'm fucking amazing. Everyone needs to value me. But are you actually contributing? So it's that balance between, are you actually like contributing? Like Leo needs to contribute some level of
Yeah.
creativity or whatever to the zeitgeist or to people or to whatever. It can be small, it can be large, versus just doing it because it feeds that sense of self. Because on the abstract, like in the negative sense, purely in the negative sense, Leo just wants to feed that sense of self. So they just want constant feedback on like, you're so
Right.
great, you're amazing. And so like both things can be true at once, but like how much of it is just trying to like I mean, like, okay, so like for example, the negatives of
No,
a
I'm
Leo.
here. I'm hearing what you're
Yeah, go
saying.
ahead. Yes, please,
In short,
please.
it's learning how to turn your flaws into features.
Yes.
So as like we were talking a little bit off the air, is essentially that like when you learn your astrological chart, which was nice to have you guys show certain things, you learn those aspects of yourself that are essentially the hinge points of where you can have fear points or points
Mm,
of uh like so it's like I've learned like for instance like I'm a people pleaser and because I have an anxious attachment style, so that basically means that I want to run in, people please, and problem solve because I feel that I'm the problem and that I need to go in and prove my value to people in order to be accepted, in order to survive as part of the community because I do not know how to, because I do not trust myself to survive alone in that kind of psyche. So, um, and then part of that is that okay, so I've learned that that's made me really hyper aware of how I'm fitting in and how other people are responding to me. And I own all of my own mistakes and I don't outsource them, which I'm like, okay, well, that's made me a place where I'm more suited for customer service and I'm more suited for, certain type of leadership in sense that like, okay, when something goes wrong, it's my fault. It's not any of the people I'm managing fault. It's like 9 times out of 10 it's because I didn't get them what they needed, you know?
well, yeah.
And so it's like, and so that is me that I've learned how to turn my flaws into features.
Yes.
Essentially take that same thing, that same need for accolades, but instead of doing it from a need to survive, you do it from a place of satiation and giving and acceptance and
Yes.
affection, you know?
Yes.
And that's how you take that exact same pathway and that same behavior pattern that you're already karmically predisposed to do. And also like however the stars affect our biology, that in there too pushes us in those behavior patterns. And then we just learn to harness them in love or harness them in fear is kind of how I understand it.
Yeah. Not You fucking nailed it. That's a great example. And like I just want to add on to that. First off, you keep saying love. That's Leo. Like that's the most positive expression of Leo is that leadership through love. I mean, as gay as that sounds, because it sounds just so no one does that. Like, but
Yay!
but yeah, exactly. And I don't mean that. Like, you know
Gay.
what? You gay. I don't mean gay. You know what I'm saying? I'll
Yes.
as
You
lame
don't
as
have to
that
cut that
sounds.
out.
Perfect. As
We're
lame
allowed
as
to say
that
it now.
sounds. Perfect. It's it's you're leading through love. You're leading through like I want to be the best. Like so, the two signs that are associated with leadership in the zodiac are Leo and Capricorn. One is leadership by the individual, like the king archetype, where it's like I'm one king. I have these ideas. This is what you should do. And a good king leads through courage, through love, through loyalty to his people, all these positives of the Leo words. And then, then you have the Capricorn leadership, which is like more the government style of leadership, where it's like delegation and being, like it's not just one leader who makes all the choices. It's like, democracy and all that bullshit. And that's also Aquarius because Saturn rules. I don't want to overcomplicate. My point is, Leo, like in the very positive sense, is that. And I love that you keep saying love because that's very much a Leo word. And it's very important because as long as you're coming from a place of love for not just yourself, like that's the problem. The negatives of Leo is they love themselves. The positives of Leo is they love doing for others. And that also it creates this feedback loop of love to self, love for others, love to self, love for others. And like the more they give their creative self to others, they receive that love back because people appreciate it. I mean, it's just like, we can appreciate, like I appreciate certain YouTube channels and I love those YouTube channels, like not like that, but you know what I mean? Like I respect them and I want to give them my love
You would if they
energy.
let you.
Hey, that's true. Danny Gonzalez, if you're out there, I love you. I'm
Thank you,
Greg.
Tim Pool.
Yeah. But the point is, there's a value in being able to like give yourself to others. You receive that love back, that feedback love back, and it creates like a feedback loop where like then you just keep giving and they just keep giving back to you. And that's like such a positive of Leo. Like that's where we get creativity. I mean, like, the roaring 20s were roaring as in like a lion roars. Like it was all about the roaring 20s is where like our current modern idea of our love for celebrities comes from. And like it was born during Neptune in Leo during the roaring 20s. And then it built obviously to what we have now. And there's a value in that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just obviously then it can be taken to the next level where these celebrities who think that they're fucking the hot shit and that everything they say goes and that if they, go and sing John Lennon's Remember when all the people were fucking,
Imagine,
during
yeah,
COVID.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
imagine it.
During
Yeah,
the-
yeah. During COVID times. Yeah.
COVID. Yeah, I remember
Yes,
that.
exactly. That's taking it too far where you think that you're so important, this self-entitlement, this like, idea of like your self-importance, you take it so far that then people become annoyed with you, like as in what Mike was saying a long time ago, where it
Because
was
it's
like
cringe.
it is
Deeply
cringe.
cringe.
Yeah, and then the people go off with their head, it's like
Yes.
then they go, fuck that person, they're too cringe, they're too self-involved. So
Yes.
like a Leo always needs to remember like whereas like an Aquarius needs to remember to always boost themselves up, a Leo needs to always remember to humble themselves a little bit. And I think that's every sign has this kind of thing where it's like, take your thing to this certain level, but then if you go past that level, then the negatives start to kind of just naturally come out. And so just kind of bring yourself back to that level where it's a good expression of the sign. And then people will just respect you and love you, and you'll get what you need basically, especially
Yeah.
if it's your sun sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
I've got one thing to say
just
about that real quick
Oh,
Yep.
because I haven't talked for a little bit.
Fight it out. Fight it out.
It just
So
I talked a lot.
what? God damn it!
I just had one sentence to say, but
Sure, okay, say it.
it's just
I will.
it's the same pursuit that when you release the need for that survival of that certain need, is exactly when you figure out how to get it met, which is exactly like what you were saying.
Yeah. 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 Oh yeah. It's that balance. Go.
There's the best kind of creativity does not have a lust for the result that creativity gets you.
Yep.
It's not about you know, the best creativity is not about how many likes you get or how much adulation you get, for sure. The Troy's gone. um,
I
it's cool. You
ceased
just
existing
disappeared in
for a
the corner. I
second.
know what you're doing. I get it. I get it. He's right there, over there,
I
isn't
got an
he?
itch.
He's just right to the side.
Yeah. Hey, it's super foggy around you. What's going on? No, just kidding. Sorry,
Um,
Mike.
it's all
There's
good.
a lot
But
of
the other
wildfires in
thing that I kind
Oregon.
of want to say that really connects with Leo energy is think about the Rolling Stones. You got like Mick Jagger. He's a Leo, right? The best kind of rock concerts are when the the person that's up there on stage is singing their fucking heart out and the crowd is absolutely in it, and there's an energy exchange that starts happening between the crowd and the musician. Everybody that's gone to live music has been to a concert where it's just fucking lit like that. You know, there's so much energy between the the stage and the people that it becomes something transcendent. And that is like the power that Leo has, to make something that's transcendent, to create this experience that everybody is uplifted and more positive, more connected because of it. You're all part of this crowd that is like loving the leader. It's like maybe it was like when a king came out and gave a great speech to his people. There was that bond between the king and his people. And that is like the high expression. It creates like beautiful, energetic um experiences, and it lifts everybody up. And everybody's also been to a concert where the person on stage was not connecting with the audience at all, and maybe they were having a bad mood, maybe they were fucking a little bit drunk or something, I don't know, or maybe on whiskey and they're angry or whatever. And when you've got like an angry audience and the person on stage, man, that's a pretty shitty experience, right? Like you've actually through your expression have created disunity around you, right? Um,
Yes.
and that's like the bad king, you know, comes out and says, "We're gonna kill like three of you until we find out where those chickens are going," you know, like that kind of shit, you know, like three people every day until we find out where the chickens are going. People are
You
not
know
gonna
my
like
dad?
that, you know, like it's just gonna create a bad experience. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and maybe they needed the chickens because you've been ruling the kingdom so bad that they fucking needed to eat their chickens. Jesus.
Oh
That's
yeah.
Fucking
exactly
king,
what my
get with
dad
it.
said.
The who? The who?
That's exactly what my dad said.
Oh, did he kill chickens in front of you? Are you
Is
Jewish?
this
Because
a
that's the thing.
trauma?
That's
Oh,
the
I got
thing. Yeah.
I got trauma for sure around that. But
Let's hear it. Let's go. No, just kidding.
I mean, like, but to be honest, is a lot of that shit was really easy to fucking let go after he died. So, you
Yeah.
know, don't need to have survival instincts when they're dead. So it was a lot easy. It was easy to forgive him for a lot of that shit.
Fair enough. I
It was
understand
good.
that. Yeah.
It was a really good growth experience for me.
Yeah.
In hindsight, and I had the fortunate ability to be self-managing my hours. So I just worked bare minimum and just allowed myself a lot of time to process and, you know,
Oh yeah.
do my weepy walks and yeah. And,
Oh,
um,
no, I get it. I mean, you're talking about a whole nother thing, but like, yeah, when our parents pass, the the dynamic forcibly changes. We don't have a choice in that situation, but there's like this weird energetic thing that happens where like, like it like cuts that energy off immediately for, and we just have to then deal with that. But it does cut that energy off, and like, like, you know, being probably too vulnerable for this podcast. Yeah, when my mother died, like she had a lot of Virgo influence on me. I have South Node in Virgo. It cut off a lot of that Virgo influence, and like it forced me to then like put my energy into other parts of my chart. So there's a value to that as well, where and it's not an easy value. I say like value like it's a
yeah.
good thing, but like it's a fucking hard thing, to be very clear. But like there's a value in that energy then gets to then, because everyone has a connection to their parents or whatever kind of parents you have. It doesn't matter. It's the people who raise you. We all have our own individual stories around that. And so then, yeah, when a parent passes, it cuts that energy, and then that energy then is freed up to then go into other parts of our charts. And yeah, obviously in that time, it might be kind of confusing and disruptive and not necessarily like, but eventually that energy then goes into other parts of our charts and we, realize, okay, we're like, that's part of growing up. Everyone has to go through that thing. Like, I mean, everyone
Well,
has parents who will pass at some point, especially as you get older. And it's just a natural part of life. And like, part of that is that cutting off of the energy that they had, the influence that they had on us. And whether you can do that while they're living or whether you have to wait until they're dead, it still happens regardless. And like, then that energy is then freed up to emphasize other parts of our charts because it's not being pulled into that one part of our chart and one part of our psyche. And yeah, so it's an important thing. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And like, yeah,
well, it goes back to the same theme of stuff we've been talking about today of just the shift in perspective helps you know yourself better by being able to see into your shadow and
yeah,
into your blind spots.
yes,
And that's the value that it
absolutely.
has with more than anything, because you got to know yourself, then you got to accept yourself, because accepting yourself is the first part of loving yourself.
Absolutely. And I think our parents, we don't have a choice in our parents. They have an influence on our lives. Whether, like, I mean, for anybody out there, like, I mean, everyone has different experiences with their parents. They have like step parents, they have all these different types of experiences. It doesn't matter. When you're young, your parents are the most influential people in your life. Like, that's just that's just psychology. That's basic psychology. It's, these people, these adults in your life have the most environmental, whether it's teachers in your life or whether it's your parents or whether it's, your uncle or your fucking grandparents who raised you or whatever. Those are the people who had the most influence on you developing into who you are. And so there's a strong like importance to that. And I think I'm not trying to like get heavy with it. I just mean like that's just a reality. And like I think everyone has to go through that. And like um everyone has their own experience with that. And so, but like again, when that person is not then cut out of your life, that definitely will change the energy inside yourself. And yeah, it just shows the importance of both the influence we have, but also where, like, how our energy can shift. Like, and again, I don't mean to transition, but like, yeah, the energy inside of us, our psyche, how we behave, who we are, can shift dramatically, whether it's based on an outside influence or just our internal growth and realizations about stuff. And that's also a very important thing because, we're not stuck. Like in astrology, it's like, oh, well, I have the moon in Libra, I have a sun in Aquarius, this. Oh, well, you're just that way. But it's like you can still grow and change and evolve, even if like you have these set specific things about yourself. And I think that people get stuck in this idea of like, oh, well, I'm just this way because of this thing in my chart. And it's like, yeah, but you can also choose to try to be better in the expression of your specific things that you are. So I'm kind of rambling, but I just wanted to emphasize that because yeah, but we can move the conversation more to like Mercury retrograde if you want. What do you guys want to talk about next?
Yeah, let's talk about Mercury retrograde a little bit. That should probably be the last topic, I think, because we've gotten pretty deep into it, and I'm starting to get tired. It's later for me than it is for you guys.
Yeah, can I pause because I gotta pee and grab some water?
I gotta pee too. Okay, good. I gotta pee so bad. Oh my god.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Don't
1 minute.
don't look at my shadow self while I'm gone.
I just have my own unique take on Mercury retrograde. I'm also going to shit on the idea that it's such a big deal. Troy, you and I both have it natally in our charts, so that's something
that
That's why I'm
makes
such a
sense.
fuck up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm such a fuck up.
No. It's why we communicate in a weird way. But my
I love that
fuck-ups.
fucking segue because I loved you just like that you gave like the perfect example of what you were saying as you said it. That was just like so fucking meta.
I might clip that part.
Yeah, you
but
might have
yeah.
to clip that part in.
Oh yeah.
That was We'll see if it
Yeah.
actually if it's funny outside the moment though.
No, I get it. I get it.
Sometimes you look back and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you're telling me I have to edit every episode. Um
I love being cringe. I don't mind.
perfect. But so
You gotta
since
be
Mercury,
cringe to get the minge.
yeah.
Unhinged.
Okay, minge is my new favorite word for pussy. That's fucking perfect. You're just being a crazy minge.
Oh, have you
I'm
not
gonna
heard
use
that
that.
before?
No, I know it's a British
Okay.
term for pussy, but I never use it, and so I forgot about
You
it.
should use it in place of other words, like on the internet. I think it would be perfect.
Like
That would be great.
other words like cunt. I mean, what are you
Yes,
talking?
yes.
What are you talking about,
Call
Mike? I don't
somebody
know.
a minge instead. That's like way better. Like, and it
Exactly.
does not break Facebook terms of service. Great.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop being ashamed of myself. You're
I
right.
do I
You're
do have to
right,
say
Mike. You're
my
right,
favorite
Mike.
Star Trek is Star Trek Terms of Service.
You know what? Fuck you.
Terms of
No.
I don't get it. I don't watch enough
my
Star Trek.
my favorite Star Trek is Star Trek Terms of Service. So
Is that like the Next Generation?
No, it's
Oh my
the
fucking
original
God.
the original series. TOS is the original series.
Oh, okay.
And also TOS is terms of service. So that was a deeper joke. Sorry, that was a deeper joke. We'll give you
It's
that.
also
Yeah.
Tits Out Saturday.
Yeah. Oh,
Is that
new
is that a
ASO
Libra
prompt.
thing?
No, that should be an ASO prompt. Fuck.
Tits Out Saturday? No, that's also against terms of service.
Oh,
Man, you got to be careful.
damn it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Just call it Dicks Out Saturday.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't let us have any fun.
No, I know. Oh, that's hilarious. That's more of a star thing,
Well,
anyways.
I mean, I guess one last thing. Did you see that Zuckerberg said I thought it was fucking cool when Trump like survived the assassination attempt? Did you see that clip?
Yeah.
I noticed that he's gotten cooler looking. Like he
Yeah.
no longer looks like an android that's been sent
Yeah.
here to destroy us.
He's been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
He
the
looks
last couple
chill.
of years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he seems happier.
Yeah.
Dude,
Good for him.
More
There's
red
something
pill.
about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a martial art that is just it allows it so that you can go essentially 100% with someone, you know, full blast on someone, so you always know where you're at. Like there's no ego check. Like when you're doing striking fighting, you're always not hitting them as hard as you can. You're always like, essentially like pulling back a little bit, even when you're doing full contact sparring. But like, so there's just something in there that just immediately checks the ego, just constantly and subconsciously, that it's like in other systems, it's like, oh, when someone's acting out of line, you kind of have to kind of like put them in line like you would in a lot of other situations, you know? But like there's something about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that just, I don't know.
I'm more of a fan personally of Gentile Jitsu.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're like, fuck you for even saying that. You ruined my
hey,
jiu-jitsu
it's all right.
line. I had more things
blame
to
it on
say.
Mercury retrograde. It's Mercury retrograde's fault.
Perfect.
It's not
There
even
you go.
Mercury retrograde. We're still shadow, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even know when it goes in. I think it's this week, maybe.
Are we going back to the wait? So part of our shadow's Mercury retrograde.
So no. Okay, so
I think it's August 4th.
falling apart. So that's Mercury retrograde.
Before
Anytime
Mercury
anything
goes
fails,
retrograde. God damn it.
Sorry.
Do you want to know what Mercury shadow is or not?
I want to be funny.
What? You want to be funny?
I want to be funny.
Okay, good.
Womp, womp, womp.
You're doing a great job. I'm sorry.
No.
I haven't eaten a lot today or this week, and maybe that was just my Aries rising coming out. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to ruin your day, but
Yeah.
it's time to move on to Mercury retrograde if we want to get it done. And I'm ready.
Oh my God. Okay. I
So
love you. I love you guys.
when Mercury goes retrograde, it goes back through the sign. So in this case, it'll go from Virgo back into Leo. But the period of all of the degrees that it goes back through, as you're coming up to it, that's the shadow of the Mercury retrograde. And then it also goes back through that. So the shadow actually lasts basically the shadow is like 3 times the length of Mercury retrograde. So it's almost like we're almost always kind of in a shadow or a retrograde or the end of the shadow, which this is probably why Nick doesn't think Mercury retrograde is that important, because I mean, it's kind of almost always there. It's very rare that you're not in some kind of retrograde period. It's very rare that all the planets are direct ever. I mean, it usually lasts for a few days. I managed to, of course, be born during one of those periods, and I'm very proud of myself for it. But not everyone was as lucky.
Congratulations, well done.
Well
Not
done.
everybody was as lucky. For example, you two weren't that lucky. You both have Mercury retrograde, right?
Yep.
As your natal chart.
Yep.
So maybe the reason Nick thinks
Here
that
to fuck
Mercury
shit
retrograde
up.
isn't that bad is because when Mercury is retrograde, people with Mercury retrograde tend to have an easier time of it. So that might be it. That might be it.
Nailed it. Yes,
Might have nailed
we
it
do.
right there. I might have just
We
pulled
do.
it out of my ass.
No, we definitely do. And I mean, the rest of the year fucking sucks, but there are those 3 weeks when Mercury is retrograde, which, by the way, August 4th through August 27th. I just looked it up so we can have
Okay, cool.
specific dates. But yeah, August 4th, depending on your sign zone, blah blah blah. Yes, people with natal Mercury retrograde, the regular part of the year is like when other people have when normal people go through Mercury retrograde is when, like, that's the struggle. That's the normal part of the year for us, me and Troy, when we have natal Mercury retrograde. But when it goes retrograde, yeah, things fucking line up. I figure things out. Things fucking are perfect. I can write fucking contracts. You know, the whole cliche of like, don't sign contracts during a Mercury retrograde. Don't fucking like make, you know, hard decisions during Mercury retrograde. If you don't have it in your chart, yes, don't do that shit. Wait, it's only 3 weeks. But if you do, it's a fucking great time. And I'm not saying it's exactly opposite, because like obviously everyone is influenced by a retrograde regardless of if they have it in their chart. But like, if you have natal Mercury retrograde, it's a time for you to just start expressing yourself, start figuring your shit out, like make fucking decisions. Like, it's not a bad thing at all. And I can promise you that because I've experienced that many, many times. And every time Mercury is retrograde, things seem to go better for me, at least in terms of what Mercury rules. And it'll be fun because this podcast will continue during the month of August. And 2 people in this podcast, both myself and Troy, have natal Mercury retrograde. So it'll be interesting to see the contrast of how we express ourselves during that time versus not. And this is for the audience. You can see for yourself how it affects people in like a very direct way. And yeah, before I have a little fucking thing that I want to say about retrogrades in general, but specifically with Mercury retrograde. So unless you guys want to jump in real quick, I'll jump into that.
Go.
Okay, so any planet that goes retrograde, the idea is it goes through a shadow phase. So that's when it is moving through the area of the chart where it will go retrograde back. My like analogy for that, or whatever my metaphor for that is, say you're hiking up a mountain. You're hiking up a mountain, you're going forward. You get to a certain spot, you rest. That's when Mercury starts to go retrograde. And then you realize, oh, at that resting point, you go, oh, fuck, I forgot, you know, I left my water bottle at the last resting spot. So then you go back, you retrace your steps, you go back, you pick up your water bottle, and then you go forward again. It's very simplified metaphor, but the idea is you're moving forward mentally, especially everything that Mercury rules. So like how we communicate, contracts, how we come across to people. It's really has to do with the conscious mind. If when it goes retrograde, you're basically retracing your steps of the shadow period, and you're retracing your steps and then moving forward again. So there's a value in that. And so people tend to overemphasize the negatives of Mercury retrograde, like, oh my God, Mercury is retrograde. Oh, it's a terrible time, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it's only a terrible time if you're not able to like go, okay, like I moved forward this much and now I need to go backwards this much mentally and in terms of communication and stuff. If you're able, if you have, if say like you say a whole bunch of shit during the shadow period, and then it hits the retrograde point and then it goes back, yeah, you're gonna have to re-deal with the stuff that was started back here. So like I would almost argue that the most powerful parts are the shadow period and the after shadow period, because during the retrograde itself, your job is to basically analyze, like, did I say the right things? Was that effective? And all the things like that have to do with, and like, did I sign a contract that I regret now? Like that's very much a cliche of Mercury retrograde, but it emphasizes the point of basically all of the RE words. So like rethinking, recharging, reevaluating. I mean, there's a whole, you can
Editing.
just type, yeah, re-editing. I mean, there's a million, you could type in the Google, like RE words, and you can get a whole bunch of them. And those are all about a Mercury retrograde time or any planet retrograde. But Mercury retrograde is the most, specifically obvious because it's such a short-lived retrograde. So people tend to feel it more strongly because it's only 3 weeks. But like, if you come into it thinking like, okay, well, like I'm hiking up a mountain, again, using that metaphor, obviously things are going to come up during that stage and as you hike up the mountain. If you don't take them as like, oh, well, this is like the worst thing ever. I have to go back and get my water bottle because I dropped it and I have to retrace my steps and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, okay, yeah, I just did this thing. Here we go. Having a very rational, calm, collected mentality about Mercury retrograde will benefit people immensely. And I think that people tend to overemphasize the negatives of the Mercury retrograde and think like, oh my God, it's all these problems. And like the whole cliche is like, oh, you're going to contact ex-boyfriends or girlfriends, or you're going to get into like problems with like communication. It's like, yes, you can, but like all it takes is literally just stopping yourself. It doesn't take more than just stop yourself, pause, wait until Mercury is direct again. Boom, you're good. We're talking about 3 fucking weeks, like not like months and months like other planet retrogrades. So I just want to emphasize that because people seem to fucking lose their goddamn mind about Mercury retrograde, but then they don't fucking talk about Saturn retrograde or Pluto retrograde. It's like those are the ones that I would be like more like those are heavier retrogrades. So I just think
I
that's
think
interesting.
Saturn is retrograde right now. I think it
It
just
is.
started going retrograde. You
A
can
month
definitely
ago.
feel the energy from it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The retrogrades that I actually notice the most, I think that what your chart ruler is the one that you're probably going to notice the most.
Yeah.
My chart ruler is Aries, so Mars retrogrades always have a big impact on me, and usually it has something to do with actions that I took that I have to revisit and realize, oh, that probably wasn't the right path. So I usually have to like kind of go through a little bit of an ego check, like where I thought I was going wasn't probably the right way. I have to figure out like a new way to approach like a problem if I'm trying to resolve something. But Mercury retrograde, the way that it really manifests most for me is on the internet. And it's just like little annoying things. Like there's more miscommunication. So there's more people that are at each other's throats just in generally during a Mercury retrograde. It just causes chaos in the groups and stuff like that. But it also, like in just workplace stuff, like, email won't come through. And this was an important email that you needed, in order to do something. And somebody forgot to hit send, or they sent it and it went into some, glitch. Something happened and it wasn't even their fault. And suddenly that thing's gone. And those little lacks of communication start adding up over the course of time. And that's why Mercury retrograde is annoying, but it's not bad. It's just irritating. But I get irritated pretty often. So it's kind of normal.
Fucking
Well,
glitches.
yeah. and fixed signs. Yeah, no. Troy, do you ever experience that in your own life? Like when people tend to not be on their shit? I mean, it's funny because you have Mercury retrograde natally. You're experiencing almost what Mike is talking about, the natural, annoyances of Mercury retrograde natally, like or by transit when it happens. You experience that almost on your regular life, and then I promise you, it'll be interesting to see starting August 4th how things change for you and I'm asking you to be aware of how things change for you starting August 4th through the 27th because you have natal Mercury retrograde, things will be almost flip-flopped. Whereas you deal with annoying, shitty communication on the reg, and I do too, where it's like during the reg, I mean the non-transit Mercury retrograde times, it'll be interesting to see how things shift for you as well during that Mercury retrograde time. And we'll talk about this in like maybe the next episode because I think it will be after Mercury has turned retrograde. And like, you've talked about with your job, and I hope I'm not trying to get too personal, but like, annoying communication issues and annoying issues with like having like the things that happen during a Mercury retrograde for the average person seem to happen for you and I during, Mercury direct transit times. And it's just interesting because like basically you could take advantage of August 4th through August 27th and like really use that to your advantage because you do have the natal Mercury retrograde. And I would, for anyone out there who has natal Mercury retrograde, those are great times to like take advantage of shit, like get shit done in your life. Like whether, especially when it comes to communication, dealing with like basic shit, like, communication, it's like email. It's not just obviously face to face, but like, and also say the things you want to say, be as clear as you can. And then for the people who don't have Mercury natally retrograde, you're going to become more introspective, more open. And it's fascinating to watch the difference because I've noticed that like people around me in my life who don't have Mercury retrograde during those times, they definitely, their brain, you can see their brain shift. And I don't know if it's like a left brain, right brain thing or whatever you want to call it, but like there's this kind of shift of energy. And like people in my life tend to be more introspective and be more open and be more kind of slower to respond to stuff in some ways. But then when they do respond, there's like a lot of value in what they say. And I think that also sums up people with natal Mercury retrograde as well. So it's interesting.
People with natal Mercury people with natal Mercury retrograde. That was harder to say than I thought it was going to be.
I get it.
Are more often in their daily life misunderstood or misinterpreted. Like the things that they say are taken as something more than what they said, it's used against them. It's like, but everybody gets to enjoy that during the retrograde period while you are clear in your communication. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm looking forward to enjoying being misinterpreted and misunderstood, and hopefully I can turn it into memes and comedy because that's my general way that I deal with annoyances. But
so, would you say that that's a good time to maybe approach certain relationships that you've rubbed wrong for whatever reason in that sense?
To repair a relationship? Yeah, that's a reword.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wait.
There's a lot of other rewords that we should not say online too.
But, what, like
you don't want to retard your progress, for example.
No.
Yes. I do not want to slow down. No bueno, muy retardando.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, exactly. Repair is a great reword. Exactly. That's the and the thing with relationships is, do you want to repair that relationship? And it's like, you have to check with yourself. Like, is it an impulse? Because a lot of people during Mercury retrograde, they'll like rehash stuff from the past, but is rehashing stuff the same as repairing stuff? Is it the same as reconnecting? Or is it the same as like reconciliation? Is that the word? basically like
Reconciliation, yeah.
reconciliation. Thank you. And like, is that what you want? Because a lot of people impulsively do that because they're especially right when Mercury goes retrograde, they're like that first couple days when any planet goes retrograde, those first couple days give you a ton of insight into the retrograde as a whole. And so if you're like impulsively feeling like, oh, I need to rehash or reconnect with someone or whatever, is that necessarily the best thing? Like, is that just a feeling? Is that an impulse in the moment? And is it best to use Mercury to rationalize and think and go, okay, Mercury just wants to go blah and just fucking do the thing. It's very quick. It's a quick moving planet. It moves around the sun the fastest of any planet. And like, it just wants to fucking take care of things and boom, 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 boom. But like, take a step back. Like, and that's maybe where the negatives of a Mercury retrograde come from, like the negative cliches. And I would say like, yeah, like if you're like, say like you're working out some stuff with a former flame or a former partner, whatever you want to call it, like, yeah, you can jump back into like talking to them and like but it's not going to go necessarily well, especially the timing of it. If it starts at a Mercury retrograde, it's not going to fucking finish. You might have 3 weeks to talk to them, but it's not going to end well. And like, that's something that I've also noticed. But with you, Troy, because you have Mercury retrograde natal, it might in a weird way be the opposite. Again, I don't know, so I don't want to tell you the wrong information, but yeah.
Well, 3 weeks of fucking is better than 3 weeks of not fucking. So, just saying. I mean,
You aren't wrong. There you go,
Not
Troy.
the type of relationship I was trying to repair, but just a thought in general.
oh, well,
Well, because
Well,
I don't rub
no,
them
you shouldn't
wrong.
have sex with somebody that you don't want to have sex with. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a given.
I've learned that
Yeah.
one the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Usually you learn that the soft way, as far as I know. But that's how you know it's not going to work. What?
yeah.
Well,
But I'm
you said, but
No. Well, thank you.
Troy, let's
That
talk about
deserves a
that.
symbol.
So is there someone who you want to reconnect with? Troy.
I mean, no, generally all of my previous romantic interests are previous for a good reason.
Okay. Then
Whether I
fine.
know it or not.
no. But for the general audience, yeah, it's not. I mean, even if things reconnect, don't fucking put your heart and soul into it because yeah, sure, it might be a fun 3 weeks and you might like click for a little while. Realistically, and this is just Mercury, it's not Venus retrograde or anything like that, but even with Mercury retrograde, it's not necessarily a sign of the overall relationship. And so, yeah, a lot of people, I mean, obviously relationships are very important to people. So
Well, I was
during
thinking,
this time,
just so you know, I was thinking more of business, with leads
ah,
and accounts and such like that.
oh, you're
You know?
you're gonna light up for the next 3 weeks.
Well, because I had
Utilize it.
I had a
Yeah.
couple chances where I had a couple days where I just had really fucking shit bad luck and really bad timing. Just came in at the wrong moment. I don't know, whatever. Couple people, it's like I did absolutely nothing wrong. And it's just like, why am I getting yelled at right now?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So you focus on the fact that you did absolutely nothing wrong and just trust that as we're in the shadow period. So these people might not have natal Mercury retrograde. So they're going to be experiencing a whole different animal to you. And they're going to be things are and crazy right now for them. As Mercury turns retrograde, you can take advantage of your ability to communicate clearly to them. And almost they're going to be more receptive and in a weird way. Like they're going to be more introspective, receptive. Again, another RE word, but they're going to be receptive to your mental influence, basically. And you could take that to your advantage. This sounds shitty. It sounds like you're trying to manipulate them, but no, it's like if they're confused and things are weird for them right now, give it whenever August. So August 4th, I think, is next Sunday. So give it a week. And then after August 4th, see how you can communicate to these people and really influence them and get what you need, basically. And I think that you'll be able to be a lot more, and you'll feel more confident mentally. You'll feel a hell of a lot more clear. Things will just come to you more simply. Like it won't have to be like you have to think hella hard about, because that's the thing with Mercury retrograde natal is we have to almost think hard about what we're going to say versus some people who just naturally the words just come out the brain and the mouth, link is just on point. That'll
Such as
be
Aries.
yes.
Aries, Mercury, especially. Mercury and Aries,
Yes.
especially.
Yes, exactly. And like things will flow more naturally and it will feel more naturally. You'll feel more confident because of that, because if things are flowing from the brain to the mouth and you can communicate the ideas you have more clearly, that adds to confidence. I mean, regardless of Mercury sign, but yeah. But yeah,
Pretty sure my Mercury is in Pisces though.
it is.
Oh,
It
you
doesn't
got
matter
fish
though.
brain? Fish
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
Fish brain.
Fish brain.
Oh yeah. Totally.
That's one of the most difficult for me to talk to. Not you specifically, but Mercury and Pisces.
Thanks.
Because they're the least, they tend to be less clear and more like universalist, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's like
That's
it's
true.
it's not
I never
down
talk
enough,
about
It's
politics in both sides. I never am a both sides person.
Yeah, you never get into these abstract ideas. Never.
Never. I never have had an existential crisis about reality, therefore went down a deep philosophical and spiritual rabbit hole,
I'm
just
glad
being
you
like,
never had
what
to
is
deal with that.
reality and what is God and who am I? And
Yeah.
what is my purpose in
Never.
life? And
Never.
yeah, and now I sell kombucha.
Wait.
Your purpose is kombucha. That's cool.
Yeah, shout it out. Let's hear it. Let's see the bottle.
Oh,
Shout it out.
and some music. I gotta play some tunes. I gotta get going again. But I just never wanted to. I never wanted music to be my survival because I realized that would kill it for me.
Well,
And
you
also that I that I need to love what I'm doing for me to be good at my music and also put in the time to, be to get in my skill time practice, because it's just like being an athlete, you have to be in shape, and there's a shape to being a musician, not just knowing what you're doing,
I'm in shape because a pear is a shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, you have quite the father figure going on, so.
Yes. It's not a dad bod, it's a father figure. Isn't that a shirt that people like me get once they get fat? Yeah, that's generally how it goes.
But again, that's just like, it's a different way of accepting yourself. And even though you might be casting a bigger shadow, you know what's in it at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Nothing but bullshit.
Yeah.
In my shadow.
Jokes.
Yeah.
And fat
I have
jokes.
I have a shadow back there. My shadow is trying to attack me right now. Woo.
Oh shit.
I hear ya.
Your dog is outside the door just waiting to come in, I'm sure.
Good talk, boys.
It has been a pleasure Astro broing out with y'all.
Yep.
Look forward to the next time we do this when Mercury is actually retrograde and I have fish brain for a little while. We'll see how that works. Yeah. I'm excited for how much shit is going to happen on the group is going to have many problems during this time. And I'm excited to see how they resolve themselves.
They will.
For at least another season.
I'm going to use my Mercury retrograde natal power to the best. Don't worry.
Oh, perfect. That's going to be great.
I'll step in. But yes, boys, it's been great. Troy, how you do? Anything else?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
great.
I'll just see what happens in the ASO Thunderdome.
Yeah. Yeah, you will. I mean, you got to follow around the drama. It's often not on the front page. You got to go into the special threads that showcase it.
Yeah.